Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this week I had a really big haul, 20 books once again, and next week, obviously, it's Christmas, so I'm only getting, I believe, 5 books, which actually is like a heftier haul than maybe what's coming out than other people would get. But I will have a review, hopefully, on for that week, but it obviously won't be on Christmas Day. It'll probably be that Thursday or so. I'll post a review. Again, there's like 5 comics. Same thing for the New Year's comics. That'll probably be the Thursday for those reviews, which I think I'm getting like 6 comics. But let's get started. This was a huge week as well. There's a lot of DC books that came out this week that were really big. So, number 20 for me, though, is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 36. So, I have not been enjoying this arc that much. I've never been a fan of Spider-Man 2099, and I will say this didn't really make me a fan of Spider-Man 2099. So, with this issue, we get to see Peter attack Dr. Doom, out of all people, and there's different scenarios he can do that with, and that's pretty much the whole issue. I again, was not invested with this story. The artwork was kind of plain to me. Didn't really like that either. I think the best part was just seeing, like, the One More Day reference in the middle there of, like, he really tried everything to destroy Dr. Doom. So, overall, giving this 2 stars. Definitely excited for this to move on to a new arc. Moving on to number 19, which is Flash Forward, issue 4, which I believe there's, 2 more issues left of this one. And I have not been liking this mini-series, but I wanted to see it through, because I wanted to see where this, Irie and Jay stuff would go, his family stuff. And that's always the best part. Like, I really like the opener of this issue, where it's him and his kids and his wife. It's like, the good old days. And then it goes back to this multiverse stuff, and there's 20,000 characters. And then that guy from the Dark Multiverse stories, which I'm like, he's kind of a bore fest. And then we get to see his wife in a different dimension, who's also a Flash, and somehow they end up having a romance because they know each other because of the multiverse, I guess. But I would think these versions don't really know each other, so I thought that was weird. And then in the end, he finds his kids, which was cool. So if it was like the beginning and end, this would be a good book. But because it's everything in the middle and it's just so convoluted and so much going on in this book, it just doesn't have a clear direction or path. It kind of falls apart for me. So artwork is okay for this book as well. I'm not a huge Brett Booth fan, but obviously, he's done stuff for this character, so, it fits the style, but it's just not my taste. But yeah, Flash Forward issue 4 gets 2 stars, and that is number 19. Moving on to number 18. This book I honestly am, like, debating on dropping, but I'm going to try seeing it through, and that's Spider-Man issue 3. So this is the Abrams book, and I don't really particularly love the story for this. I don't know. It just, first of all, Tony Stark going back to drinking and just, like, using it as, like, a comedic beat was kind of weird. And then Peter dying and being, like, this deadbeat dad, it's not that fun for me. And then I don't really care about the villain either. They kind of reveal a little bit more about him in this issue, and I think his name is, like, Karner or something. And then we get to see, like, robot versions of our Avengers in the end, and I'm guessing Peter and MJ are being caught by this villain. And that's, like, the only saving grace for me. I'm like, I kind of want to see what he does with MJ and Peter, but I'm just not invested in this world. I like the art. I like the potential for this book, but, because Abrams is so far away from the comic book writing realm, and then also having his son writing it, you could kind of feel that detachment when you're reading it. So Spider-Man issue 3 gets 2.5 stars, I believe, or maybe 2 stars. That was 2 stars. So moving on to number 17, which is Batman Superman issue 5, another book I'm kind of debating on dropping. Just because I probably will read the next issue because it is ending this infected arc. But this thing has been going on forever, and it's in so many titles. If you get the one-shots, and you get the villain year stuff, and I feel like none of it's, like, really moving anywhere, and that's exactly what Batman Superman has felt like for me. It's a really cool action book. I like David Marquez's artwork a lot, and that's a big reason why I'm continuing to read this series, but the story is just like punch, 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 and that's kind of it, and I just wanted more meat from the infected crew, more of their chemistry, more of the battle, and it's just not really there for me. So again, I think I'm going to give this one more issue depending on if this arc is over, but I like this more than the other Batman Who Laughs stuff, but I guess I'm just not that connected to the Batman Who Laughs stuff. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 18? 17? That was 17. Alright guys, number 16 is Batman, issue 85. So, I was debating on doing a whole video on Tom King's run, but then I'm like, I've talked about his run a lot on this channel, so I don't know if I need to do a whole separate video on it, but if you guys want it, let me know in the comments below. A video I will be doing, and I hope to post this by Friday, is that ending cliffhanger with the Joker. I want to talk a little bit more about that in depth, so I won't talk about that here. I'll do a video on it. But yeah, what did I think of this overall issue? So in the end, we get to see Catwoman and Batman married, but not legally. So they're like, we don't need a lawyer. We're married. And then for some reason, Gotham Girl and Batman are all gung-ho again. Like, they're fine after, like, she's done some shit, you know? And they're okay. And Gotham Girl gets her powers again. You would think after teaming up with Thomas Wayne and, like, destroying Gotham, you wouldn't be rewarded by getting superpowers. But I do like Gotham Girl, and if I completely ignore what happened in City of Bane, I'm okay with it. But we did get all the City of Bane, so I don't know what they're trying to do with that character. But, you know, it's tough. It's tough to kind of review this one. I say if you like Tom King's run, you're gonna like this issue. If you're like me and kind of fell off of it after issue 50, you're probably not going to like this issue. You know, the biggest issue I've had with the last half of his run is I feel like a lot of the moments don't feel deserved. There's good moments here. Again, Catwoman and Batman being together. You got him talking about his daddy issues. But all of it kind of feels rushed, even though it took such a long time to get here. They never used the opportunity to explore those emotional beats in those past issues for any of this to feel deserved, especially the Catwoman and Batman stuff. It's like they fought for a while, and Catwoman's like, no, I don't want to be with Batman, and then she's like, okay, I'll be with Batman because, you know? I don't feel like there was like that issue where we got into Catwoman's head saying, okay, that's why she wants to be with him. So, and even Batman, you know, he was also like all sad and stuff, and then they had this weird turnaround where it was all part of his plan to have all that devastation happen to him. And then the Thomas Wayne stuff, I get it, theme-wise, it's son versus father, but even Batman says it in this, like, you're not my dad. So, it just kind of all falls apart. It just all kind of crumbles. There's a lot of potential here that just doesn't feel fulfilled. So, obviously, am I going to get Batman Catwoman? Hell yeah, I'm going to go get that book. But, did I love this run? There are definitely pieces I really liked about it. I mean, I still love that Lois and Clark double date between them. That's still one of my favorite issues. But I think it definitely lost something along the way after the wedding cliffhanger, or the wedding sidestep, I guess. But yeah, Batman issue 85. Beautiful artwork as always. Story, it's not really feeling it. So I'm going to give that 2.5 stars. And that is number 16. Moving on to number 15, this kind of went down the rankings a little bit, and that is New Mutants issue 4. I'll say it here, I decided to drop X-Force in this one. I was kind of debating if I wanted to read it or not, but I had so many books this week, and I read them all in one day. So I was like, do I really like X-Force that much? I don't know. So I like the events happening in X-Force, but I didn't really love the character work in that book. So that's why I'm like, I have so many X-Men books I'm really enjoying. I'm going to drop that one. New Mutants, I'm enjoying this still. I don't know how long this is going to be on my pull list for, but this issue kind of deals with the whole Beak and Angel situation where Armor goes over there and the aftermath of that. So there's these people, these soldiers that go to their doorstep and it's them dealing with them. I had the most fun with Boom Boom though, because she was just drunk the whole issue, and she's like, I just want to adventure, and she's going to help Armor because of it. So I like that. I thought that was cool. Artwork was good too, but I liked the last issue a bit more, I guess, for the political aspect of them helping out someone who's not a mutant. I thought was cool. Didn't really care about the villains in this one though. So given that 2.5 stars, 3, 2.5, 3? Might be 3 stars actually. Yeah, gave that 3 stars. Artwork, that's why. Alright, moving on to number 14, and that is Angel, issue 8. And I feel like this franchise has kind of suffered a little because of the Hellmouth crossover event. I still feel like it's been a bit too early to have an event like this. But this issue, it kind of slows things down once again, where Wilfred is maybe taking an opportunity with Wolfman and Hart. Or I don't think that's how you pronounce them. It's like Wolf whatever and Hart. They definitely said their name enough in here. Let me see. Anyways, Wilfred. Wolfman and Hart? Anyways. So, we get to see Wilfred dealing with that, and it was cool, like, kind of looking into her past. I thought that was cool. And the Spike and Gun unexpected friendship is interesting, but it's just kind of all slowing stuff down, and they're just waiting for Angel to come back, so everything kind of feels like a stall at this point. But still, I enjoy the character beats here. I still thought it was a good issue. There's some really great artwork in this one, but I think this book could be even stronger if their lead was in the book. So, Angel issue 8 gets 3 stars. Also, I feel like some of the story arcs are happening really quickly. We just are getting to know these characters in this universe, and they're really rushing some of the storylines that took a long time to build up in the show. Alright, moving on to number 13, which is The Infected Commissioner issue 1. So, really liked the artwork for this. I thought it was really dark, and it definitely had a good Batman feel to it, and worked for a darker Gotham story. So I really, really enjoyed the artwork and kind of the ambiance of this issue. But the story, I like, Gordon kind of giving up on Gotham. The book, once again, like a lot of these Infected stories are really wordy, for wordy's sake. Like, I feel like if you're gonna be wordy, there has to be a reason to be, and sometimes it just kind of feels like exposition, and here kind of just felt like exposition. So, I, again, enjoyed the different point of view of Commissioner, but like I said with Batman and Superman, I don't know if I care about this arc anymore. It's been going on for so long. So, the Commissioner issue 1 gets 3 stars, and that is number 14, I believe? That was number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Shazam, issue 9. This is the book that tends to be delayed a lot, but this one actually wasn't. The last issue came out kind of recently, so I'm hopefully it's back on track. But I like the whole overall story of this, where we get to see Shazam's, or, Billy's dad become part of the family, and then realizes because he's a different side of the family, if he has the powers, his siblings can't have them. And I thought that was cool. But by the end, Billy kind of twists the rules and says, no, they're all my family, so let's do this. And it's kind of a quick turnaround. But I like the idea of why the dad got powers, because at first I'm like, he's not a kid. Why does he have these powers? So at least it kind of worked for the overall theme. Most of the artwork was really good, but then once you got into the weird Wizard of Oz storyline, the artwork went back to kind of the less detailed version. It's kind of weird to have multiple artists in this book. They're just so differing styles, and I thought the issue really slowed down with the Wizard of Oz stuff. I'm not really invested in all these different magical worlds, but I do like the heart of this story, and that is the reason I'm going to give this 3 stars. So Shazam issue 9 gets 3 stars. Moving on to number 11, and this actually got a bit higher, and that is Basketful of Heads, issue 3, not issue 1. This, I believe, is the only Joe Hill House books I'm getting currently, but I think another one came out this week, actually. 20 books, though. Couldn't try it out. So, yeah, this one I felt like it slowed things down and got us into the heads of these characters a bit more. It's our main character having a conversation with the head. So I like that. The ending, there's this guy who's hurting the girl, and I'm like, I don't really care for this ending, but I really love the art, and I thought there were some really good comedic moments. I like that these two people from very different walks of life are interacting with each other. It's the final girl having the opportunity to talk to the slasher in a way. So I thought that was a cool story and a kind of cool twist to this slasher genre, which I love. So I thought this is a pretty big improvement. Because again, we kind of got into the character's head and maybe learned a little twists and turns about our boyfriend as well. So Basketful of Heads issue 3 gets 3.5 stars. And that is number 11. Moving on to number 10. This is so if you guys don't want to be spoiled, not that, this show is not filled with spoilers, but there was a Christmas gift that Mark Millar, not gift, I didn't get this for free, but, a Christmas surprise, we'll say, holiday surprise for the Millar run of stuff, Millar World, that the book that he was releasing was going to be a surprise, and that book was American Jesus, issue 1. So, I like that idea, because, a big part of Christmas is, you want a surprise sometimes. That gift, you're like, I didn't expect to get it. So, I thought that was cool. But at the same time, I'm like, I probably wouldn't have gotten this book if I knew what it was. Just because I didn't follow his other American religious stories. I know he had another one, I believe. Maybe he didn't. Maybe that was just... No, he did. American Jesus. That's what I thought. This is another American Jesus. But this is about a girl. It's kind of like, the Virgin Mary type story, which is definitely interesting. Just not enough for me to want to read past issue 1. It's about this girl who gets pregnant and didn't have sex with her boyfriend and is a virgin, and she has to deal with having this baby. And it was kind of interesting. There is a scene though where her mom's like, you gotta get an abortion, and things happen that they wouldn't allow it to happen. So we'll see where this story ends up going, but it's kind of a modern-esque tale, because I think it's the 70s, but a kind of modern tale of the Virgin Mary, which was definitely interesting for an issue, but I wasn't invested in the character enough to want to read this as a series, but it still was a nice surprise, and I think in that regard, it's kind of cool to try it out a series that maybe if you read it in solicits, you wouldn't have tried out. So, American Jesus issue 1 gets 3.5 stars, and that is number 10. Alright, moving on to number 9, which is Ghost Spider, issue 5. So this is a little lower than usual, but it's a little of a slower issue, but we do get a bit more with the Jackals and the 616 version of Jackal's obsession with Gwen Stacy. So I like that. It was fun. They kidnap her, the Mary Jane's helper, and that's kind of the issue. There's not much to it, but there's a lot of fun moments, and I love the Mary Janes here. I love Gwen's reaction when MJ's there, and still MJ very worried about the band. She's like, are you gonna come to band practice? I know you've been kidnapped and everything, but band practice. So I enjoyed the issue. I still, I love these characters, but it just kind of felt like a point A to point B issue at points. But the artwork was really good as always, and still a fun issue. So Ghost Spider issue 5 gets 9. It's number 9 and gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 8, which is Marauders issue 4, which I actually thought was going to be Storm related because Storm's on the cover and she has a scene. So if you're a super Storm fan, she has something in here. She's not the main character. But yeah, I enjoyed this issue. Another point A to point B issue, but it's Kitty going up against this woman who's anti-mutant, and then we find out her husband is in a cult that loves mutants, so I thought that was interesting. But really, it's Kitty trying to get Bishop to be the Red Bishop, to have somebody in the Hellfire Corporation, not even the club, corporation with her that she could trust. So that's mostly the story. And there's some really good humor here. I love that Kitty gets knocked in the face again. She's like, my nose was just about to heal, and now I have a broken nose again. So yeah, there's a lot of fun Kitty moments here, some good artwork, but I like the more political things happening here. Some of the older characters, or we could say younger characters of the Hellfire Club, show up again here. So there's a lot of political drama that's being set up from issue 3 to issue 4 now. So I'm going to give that 3.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, another big book that we have to talk about, so bear with me. And that is Doomsday Clock, issue 12. So made it kind of high. That's pretty cool. Okay, so, you gotta take a deep breath to talk about this one. But it's hard not to mention the delays, right? I don't want to be that critic to be like, all right, guys, let's talk about the delays. But it really does take away from the story because it's not because it was delayed. Like, yes, I do believe that because we had to wait such a long time, it takes away from some of the pacing. But I actually mean, like, story-wise, there are things that happen here that kind of don't mean anything anymore because it's so late. So you have the Legion of Superheroes. We have a Legion of Superheroes book. Also, I feel like having an event like this, the next week you kind of want another story that deals with the aftermath of it. And here, it's like, the aftermath has already been dealt with. It was just like kind of a fun story about like, okay, how did the rebirth happen? Here it is. Did we need it? No, I just think it fills in the gaps. And yes, there's obviously stuff about speculation, the whole 5G thing going on with DC, their plans for the next 5 years, and maybe some spoilers or teases of where this is gonna go. But really the reason why I liked it was because it was this kind of dissection of a book that already dissected superhero books. So Watchmen was created because they're like, hey, let's make some darker superhero tales. It changed the landscape of comics forever. And now they're like, okay, see how Watchmen made comics darker? We kind of want to go back to the nostalgia of what we liked about Silver Age comics and the hope aspect and the lightness of those books. So it's kind of interesting that it dissects Watchmen. So I like that. I like Dr. Manhattan a lot in this book, and I like the teases that come along with it. If you're a Watchmen fan, you're gonna enjoy it as just a dissection of Watchmen, slightly a continuation of Watchmen. Does it promise us more Watchmen? I don't know, like, does the story end here? That's another question. Like, is Dr. Manhattan going to be in the next issue of Superman? Probably not. So where does this really affect us in the longer run of things? But also this book is kind of interesting commentary where it says, like, none of that matters. You know, there could be a billion crises, but Superman's going to be in the root the same character. So they're like, no matter what we do, don't worry, you still got the same thing going on. It kind of is a reminder of that in 2030, they're going to be telling the same stories about Superman. It's always going to be the similar root of who Superman is. Things could change around him, but it doesn't quite matter. And that's kind of the narrative that's happening here, which I think we all know in the back of our heads. But yeah, I mean, I like the story. I think it's an interesting commentary on DC Comics and superheroes, but as a Watchmen tale, it was fine. Felt a little safe to me. As a DC event, that's where I think it's like, I don't know if I care anymore, It's just like, it took such a long time to get here, and next week I'm not getting DC 5G issue 1, And again, maybe that's the whole commentary. What they were trying to say is that we don't need a DC 5G issue 1, or maybe we do. We need 20,000 crises, but Doomsday Clock issue 12 gets 3.5 stars for me. Still a really fun read. It's a longer read, so I read this last out of my list because I wanted something that, I was excited for, not like... I'm excited for all my books, but you know how the pile situation goes. I always try to do something I'm, semi-excited for the end. That way it's not like, oh, okay, this book, I'm reading this now. It's nice to save something for the end. So, also probably not the best decision because it was like 40 pages long. But maybe put it on the top of your pile if you want. But overall, like I said, 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 6, I believe. Yeah, number 6 is Family Tree, issue 2. So, this issue, I liked how it unraveled throughout the issue. So we have the grandpa character. I don't remember his name, but the grandpa. He's talking to this person, Darcy, throughout this. And this person's a tree. And Darcy's kind of like a gender-neutral name. Honestly, I thought it was like his wife or something. And then we find out that Darcy's actually the husband of the single mom, who she believes just left. And we find out, like, this dude was a tree. So, that's why he's got some stuff going on. And then the grandpa was trying to take care of him, and it's kind of this narrative that he obviously knows more about the trees than anything. There's also these group of people looking for the trees, so there's something special about them. So, I liked how it unraveled, where it kind of mixed your expectations, I guess. So, I enjoyed that. And then the ending was kind of crazy, where we get to see... his hand is also a tree, and it's Darcy. So, like, the husband/father is a tree hand and is alive. So I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool. I like the twists and turns, and again, like how it slowly took us there. It didn't reveal it right in the beginning. It's like, well, my name's Darcy. I like that you kind of had to put the pieces together towards the end. You're like, the dad, that's cool. So yeah, that was a really solid issue. Been enjoying this kind of crazy concept and given that 4 stars, and that's number 6. Moving on to number 5. This is the highest I believe this book has been, and that is Future Foundation issue 5, the last issue of Future Foundation. I love Julie. There was a lot of Julie in this issue. So, yeah, Julie hooks up with Rikki, which was really cool. And we get to see their relationship blossom, and she doesn't have to be sad anymore. So that was nice. And I liked, their chemistry throughout the book. So it was nice to see that. The rest of it is kind of rushed, which is why it wasn't higher. But you obviously understand, like, this book was canceled when the first issue came out. So, I'm just glad that the reason why this is higher is I feel like it still did a really good job at wrapping things up, and giving us some good meat to the story and still adding to a mythology for these characters if they ever want to pick them up again, which hopefully they do, because, I love the Power Pack, and I guess those Future Foundation characters too, but, yeah, there is some exposition in this issue, especially for Lila. Like, I'm a Spider-Girl fan, so I know the character, but I know she's not, like, the most known character, but there's a lot of exposition about her, and then everything kind of is, tied in a neat bow, but I really like the character moments a lot, and it's a shame because the book is ending right when I was, like, starting to get to like the team, and get to like the characters and their chemistry, so I'm happy for Julie. That's definitely what I took out of it. I really liked Alex and Julie a lot here too, where Alex like, you're my favorite superhero, and I thought that was a cute moment. So overall, I'm going to give Future Foundation issue 5 4 stars. I thought it was really solid, but obviously, there's aspects that had to be a bit rushed because of it being canceled, sadly. Moving on to number 4, which is Suicide Squad issue 1. I never believed a Suicide Squad book would be picked up from me, or, a top 5. Of course, Tom Taylor, the creative team of Injustice. I had to pick this up, and if Tom Taylor, he could write any character, but especially Harley Quinn, so especially the humor of Harley Quinn, he just gets her, to still be able to kind of have an emotional weight with her, but still making her funny. So, I like that we start out with 2 Suicide Squads. There's this one team that they're doing bad stuff, and then our main team is like, alright, well, like, what are we gonna do with these people? And then there's a lot of people that die in this comic, and we find out that Amanda Waller is quitting, and this jerk is the leader of the Suicide Squad. So, people are dying, the people who don't want to work together are working together. It's definitely the core of the Suicide Squad in a new, fun way. Artwork is great. The comedy of the issue was really well done too. Some characters that have sadly passed away in this issue were really funny. So Suicide Squad issue 1 gets 4 stars. I thought it was a really solid issue, and everything I expected from this creative team. So definitely going to get issue 2 for that one. Moving on to number 3, which is Teen Titans issue 37. Who is I don't even know what the other. I enjoyed this issue a ton, because it kind of had a Runaways feel to it, and I really like that, where pretty much all of the characters are like, we're not our parents, we've done bad things, and that's okay, and just because you've done a bad thing doesn't mean that you're a bad person, and it doesn't mean you can't redeem yourself, and it goes back to my favorite villain of the year, which is Roundhouse, who has really, really made this book for me, and he did bad stuff, because of his sister, and because he kind of didn't believe in himself because his sister died. There's this really great conversation between him and his mom, where his mom's like, it's okay that you did a bad thing, just go and fix it now. And kind of gives a really nice heart-to-heart saying, like, yeah, your sister was good at this and that, but you're just a good person. You're really good at connecting to people. Use that. And I just love that moment. And then we have a very similar moment between Crush and Kid Flash and Red Arrow, where they've all done bad stuff too, and they realize, maybe that's why they love each other, and we're really getting to that emotional core of, like, that family moment that they've earned at this point. I feel like a lot of times with Teen Titans book, they want it right away with these new characters. In this book, it took 37 issues where they're kind of like, hey, I love you, you know, and I really like that. I think that's where a good Teen Titans book is built. The reason this didn't make 2 or 1, there is slight exposition with who we find out the other is, but a really cool reveal of who he is, where we find out it's Damian Wayne's clone way back for when he died. So this is years ago at this point. I hardly remembered this arc. I'm like, oh yeah, Damian died. So I thought that was really cool connection for Damian Wayne, if you're a fan of the character. And yeah, I just really love the overall themes, and then that cliffhanger where we get to see Roundhouse saving the day. And know how the hell the Teen Titans are going to react to that after everything he's done, though. Artwork was really good, too. I've been really enjoying the style overall and grown to like the style. But yeah, good stuff here. I've been really loving this series. Definitely one of my favorite DC titles, and giving that 4.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2. Speaking of Runaways, Runaways, issue 28. I love this book, and this kind of deconstructs all the fun stuff with superheroes. So the opener is our Runaways taking an online quiz of the J-Team, and they're like, oh, who am I? And then Molly finds out she's not even the character she's supposed to be. And then Nico's happy that her name is Gloom. But then there's some really good emotional beats here, especially from Gert, where Gert's like, I don't belong here. I'm not a superhero, and all I have is Old Lace. And, you know, Victor is able to say, no, you have Old Lace. She's more than just your friend. Like, she'll protect you. And then they actually utilize this in practice, and because Gert's been gone for such a long time, Old Lace has been able to make a connection to Chase. So when Chase was in danger, Old Lace went to him. And I thought that was such an interesting twist, showing obviously how close Old Lace and Chase is, but also like more devastation for Gert, which I hate seeing her sad. But they've been doing some really, really great arcs with her ever since she's returned and trying to deal with losing all those years. And then that ending, man, that was tough. So we find out that this team is a little bit more commercialized than you thought. And the reason they're kind of superheroes is it's more for the fame, I would say, in the leader's point of view, Doc Justice, and says that Gert doesn't have the look. So that's why she can't be part of the team. And you're like, oh, God, I knew you were evil. But yeah, it was a really interesting ending, and there's some really good character beats overall, even with Nico, where Nico's dealing with her magic, and Doc Justice realizes, oh, you haven't been using your magic, that doesn't mean you can't spar. And I kind of like the way he says, like, when I say spar, I mean spar. And you can really read that through dialogue, which is brilliant, from how this creative team really knows each other, and why this is one of my favorite creative teams on stands right now, or, you know, with a comic on stands right now. But yeah, really good stuff. Artwork, you know, as always, really able to get those nuanced, emotional beats here. I even like, you know, there wasn't a Nico or Carolina specific scene here, but just the way they look at each other. Those like small moments where you're like, okay, get their connections, I get all this. So, really well done book. And I just love how it's kind of deconstructing of why the Runaways aren't superheroes and how badly they're trying, and that's kind of been rooted from the Julie issues, so or maybe even issue 1. So it's a really interesting theme that they're exploring. So Runaways issue 28 gets 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, and that is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 46. Speaking on themes, man, this is really deep. You know, we're in a timeline of a time where we get to see the Power Rangers are starting to retire, because you know, at this point in the show, Trini and Zach and Jason were gone. So now it's the question of Kimberly and Tommy and Billy are like, what do we do? You know, Zed is done. Like, we defeated him. We defeated Rita. We got Goldar. Like, who cares about him? So why are we still doing this? And Kimberly's surprisingly the one who's really holding on, because if you think of any character, because again, acting stuff that happened in the show, Kimberly left because of the whole gym thing going on, and, you know, she wanted to be in the Olympics. So she kind of leaves short notice and leaves a letter to Tommy. So it's kind of interesting to see Tommy's like kind of more willing to be like, okay, like, it's fine. We're doing well. And he's kind of more in the mind frame of like, maybe we can leave this. I can go on a date with you and leave the kids to their own thing. So, but Kimberly's like, no, like, what does it kind of mean if I'm not a Power Ranger anymore? Do I want this? Like, what? You know, her mind's kind of blown. And this all is happening with the Omega Ranger stuff, where they believe Trini, Jason, and Zach have given up on this, and then they find out that they haven't. Like, can you give up being a Power Ranger? And just some really interesting stuff dealt with here, and I just liked a lot of the conversations, and also the development of stuff going on with Shattered Grid, and I guess we're getting towards the end of more ramifications of Shattered Grid, especially with these newer characters, so a lot of interesting stuff, but I just loved how character-driven this was, and kind of digging into stuff that the show didn't have an opportunity to, and really dealing with some interesting character beats. So overall, giving that 4.5 stars. Artwork is always really good. There's some good action in this issue, but again, really good heart-to-hearts as well. So really enjoyed this one. So I'm giving that pick of the week. That is number 1. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Definitely go follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Go check out my comics, like Father, Like Daughter, and They Call Her a Dancer. And every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is our comic book podcast, where we talk about our favorite comics and comic book news. And again, that's on Comic Frontline, 10 p.m. Eastern Time every Tuesday. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Bye.